I had mentioned to you that I have, over the years, flown a lot. But I never told you that I took also probably a quarter of a million miles worth of little planes. And by little planes, I mean puddle jumpers from, I don't know, Boston to New York to Washington, whatever. They were 20 seaters, 30 seaters, twin engine planes. I took 8 passenger, 4 passenger, 2 passenger. Many times took 2 passengers. This one particular time, my boss and I, Red, had to go upstate New York. Had to go up into the Plattsburgh area to see a customer. That was a trip of around 300 miles or so. We flew up. Red, as I said, was a very observant flyer. He did not fly in bad weather. He did not fly, only flew when it was sunny. The whole thing. Red owned the Cherokee 140. For whatever reason, it was in his shop, and he had to get another plane, and he got a Cherokee, which is very similar, 160, a little bit bigger. Cherokee 140 we used to fly around 10, 11,000 feet, below the oxygen level where we didn't need oxygen, and cruise about 155 to 160 miles an hour. This particular day, we took a Cherokee 160. Red, I thought, was familiar, but he wasn't that familiar, as you will see from my story. We normally take off from an airport close by, Montgomery area, airports with concrete footing under them. This particular day, there was a plane, Cherokee 160, that was behind a very famous fighter, which if I told you Tony Canzoneri, you probably wouldn't know. He had a club up in the Marlboro area. Behind the club was a road. The road is where he kept the plane. We had to take off. So Red says, get in. Well, I got in. As I'm getting in, I said, Red, what are you going to do? He says, we're going to take off. I said, you're going to take off over this dirt road with holes and potholes and all that kind of stuff, and we'll never get enough altitude. And at the end of probably not even a little over a quarter of a mile of that, there were pine trees that have to be 30 feet tall. I'll be honest with you, I was scared. Never really scared, but that particular day I was scared. And I'll show you that I even got a little bit more scared as the flight went on. Red says, tighten your seatbelt. I did. Everything's set. Started the engines. We're taking off. We're going down, boom, 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 across the not rocky, but old dirt road that was the runway. And I said, Red, how do you plan on clearing those trees, those pine trees out there? He said, when I tell you, when I pull back on the yoke, you go back in the seat with all your weight. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, just do it. So yours truly, Red, pulled back on the yoke. I went way back in my seat as far as I can, and we cleared those pine trees. I looked down by, I would say, between 5 and 8 feet. That was the start of our trip. We usually fly along the Hudson River. Red likes to take that. There's various omnis. They're kind of like radar beacons that you go from point to point. And if he had to land, he can always land in the Hudson River. So we're flying along, and I see Red's hand coming down and pulling on a lever in the middle of, underneath the dashboard of the plane. And I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm mixing. I'm not used to it. I'm mixing the mixture, trying to lean it out for the gas. No, he's leaning and whatever he had to do and so on. We got up probably about Albany, and he said to me, geez, I'll be damned. He said, we burned over half the tank. We had about 50 gallons, 25 in each fuselage. We burned about 25 in one, and we were into at least 15 in the other. He said, I don't know if we're going to make it, Gabe. I said, you got to be kidding me. So we're going along, and we got up near Plattsburgh, and there's a base up there, or there was, called Strategic Air Command, SAC. Red must have had about a gallon left in the tank. Gospel truth. I got bare knuckled, red knuckled, holding on to the dashboard, squeezing it. He said, called over the radio, Sir, Mayday, Mayday. What is your Mayday? We have to land the aircraft. He said, sir, you land this aircraft on a military base, they'll shoot you out of the air. This is a military base confined to only military planes, period. Oh my God. Oh my God. Red looked at me, I looked at him, I'm saying, to hell, I don't know what I'm doing. Red said, we got another probably 10, 12 miles to go before our destination. Well, we finally made the destination. And I want to tell you, when we landed, we literally were spitting and sputtering as we hit the runway. We got down, we got it to the hangar. A guy came over, took it, and he turned and he said, are you aware that you have less than 1/10 of a gallon left? He said, yeah, he said, don't you know how to lean this mixture of fuel and so on? He said, well, I said, I've got a 140 Cherokee. I've never really flown 160 and I don't really know. He said, well, you should have asked. He said, you should have only burned about maybe 20 gallons, if that. Well, we made it. And boy, I'll tell you, the title of this video is exactly what it is. And that day, I was right there. My face was white, Red's face was white as can be, and like a sheet. We made it to our destination, we rented a car, and we went to visit our customer and all that. At the end of the day, we went back to the motel or hotel, whatever, Holiday Inn. Next morning, we got up, went to the hangar, and the guy said, your plane is all fueled and ready to go. He said, sir, I just want you to know, on the way back, this is the way you got to do it. He told him how he should lean it and so on and so forth, and he went through the whole instruction. Really a nice guy. We got back, we had burned roughly less than 20 gallons out of the 50. That'll give you an idea of how much that plane should have consumed, how much we consume by not knowing how to lean it, the fuel. To say that it was an experience would be an understatement. Starting from the runway, starting from a dirt runway, starting from a shorter runway, starting with pine trees, at the end, leaning back in the seat, going up, almost empty, being told we'd be shot out of the air, finally making our destination. The guy then scaring us by saying, my God, you only have 1/10 of a gallon, if that, left. I want to tell you, coming back, it was an extremely beautiful flight. And the way the flight should have been, had he been given the proper instructions on the Cherokee. Just that matter of a 140 to a 160 made a difference on a mixture leaning on the fuel. I'm taking a deep breath right now in the video just thinking about it, because I'd like you to be in a cockpit of that 2-seat single-engine plane. No mechanics up there. No mechanics flying by at 10,000 feet. If we landed, would have landed in the field or God only knows where, or I wouldn't be making this video today. But I guess God was on my side, his side, and we did it. All my experiences have been interesting. I would say this was a very interesting one. Pleasurable? I don't know, I really want to say that. But interesting? Yes, it was. And I hope it's as interesting to you. And I want you to think about it. If you were in that situation, what would you think about? What would you do? I got back in the planes after that, realizing that it could happen. I was lucky. It wasn't my time. Maybe another time might have been. Think about that for a moment. What would you do? I know I couldn't do anything. I was helpless. So was Red. We were helpless. We were at the mercy of the Lord. Thank God he was on our shoulders. He helped us through and we got there, and I made this video to show you clear evidence that I did survive. But boy, how I did, I will never know. Yes, I got back into many small aircrafts after that. Like I told you, probably 250,000 miles worth. But I want to tell you, I never in my life had an experience in a single engine two-seater like I had that particular day. And one that I could honestly tell my audience, I do not in any way want to relive. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen. If you got a story of your own, I'd like to hear it. One last thing that I forgot to say in that video that I just made, that when I got out at Plattsburgh, I kissed the ground of the runway. Literally kissed the ground. And thank God for him bringing us home. I forgot to mention it. I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Thank you very much again for listening.